Okay, now we're going live. Let's copy this stream key or stream link. Apologies if I'm a little sniffly tonight, but let's see. At everyone. Giving an impromptu or PlayMaker 2 is here. Here is a crash course to tie you over until the official tutorials are out. Okay, send that. Bada bing, bada boom. Also gonna put this in the official one. Boom. I'm streaming a live crash course. 1 second, everybody, just a second. Streaming a crash course for PlayMaker 2. Hopefully cover the foundations until the official tutorials are out. It's a lot easier for me to just stream a bunch of unedited nonsense than it is to kind of put together really concise tutorials and everything. So that's what we're doing today. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I need to also monitor chat somewhere else. I guess chat will just be right here. That's okay. Nobody's really here. It doesn't matter. So let me make sure my audio is coming in okay. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, 1, 2, 3. Giving, yeah, okay. So, this is something else. I'm going to make, we're going to make a new folder in here actually. New folder, Steven's live PM2 crash course. Okay. And then we're gonna make a new scene in here. Create. Well, should we just open an asset? Because there's a bunch of add-ons. No, it's fine. It's fine. We'll just create a new scene. Okay. Steven, crash course scene. Good luck. Have fun. Don't die. What's up, Booyah? Mr. Square Pig. Hello. How's it going, guys? Hello. I'm gonna try to be on a focused enough mode as possible, so people who can come back and who come back later and watch this can just skip to a time code that I'll put in the description. But you guys are more than welcome to stick around and ask questions and stuff like that to help me, maybe cover some blind spots. I won't be ignoring chat. This is still a live stream, but yeah, I am going to try to lock in. Also, Booyah, I see you went live like literally right as I was going live. Okay, so here we go. I have a new scene here. Now, what I also thought would be a good idea is if I just literally have the PlayMaker 2 get started, go to the see what's new in PlayMaker 2 for the full feature overview link, and just kind of go through these. And we'll go through these things one at a time and just show kind of maybe how to get you started with some of them, because there's enough information to get you started, but I think seeing it all happen can help a lot. Okay, multiple FSM editors. That's actually being patched in a version that's either shipping right now or by tomorrow. So we're not going to do that tonight. But visualize complex, blah, 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 blah. Okay, groups, images, and markdown comments. So first thing we'll cover is group images and markdown comments. That means that now when you have an FSM, right, here's our new FSM. You can come in here and add a comment and be like, yo, here's what I gotta say about this FSM, right? And now it's right here and you can resize it. Okay, and you have some stuff like that. You have this markdown cheat sheet and you can put a bunch of stuff in here. So if he's, what is it, like hashtag H1. Oh, I guess that just a hashtag just does it, huh? So if I just do it, literally if I go like this, there we go, now it's bigger. Great. Okay, so notes can go in here like that, and there's a bunch of markdown stuff that you could put, I believe, in kind of all around here as well. We're not going to get too into these sort of like nerdy little side note things. These are great for power users and everything for everybody, but let's really get into the sauce, the meat and potatoes of this. So groups, I think, is another actual great one, and I'm starting to use this more too. So you know how usually you'd have a state machine where it's like you have some logic here, right? This looks all pretty familiar to you if you're using the first PlayMaker, right? You have all this stuff, and you're like, cool, I do this, blah blah blah. And say you like what I used to do is like I used to kind of split my logic into like these vertical groups, and I would kind of have this be like part one of something happening, and I would kind of visualize this as like one main system, and if the system changed a little bit, I'd be like, okay, let's start the second half over here, and then I would have the rest of it over here. And for an example, that might be something like, I don't know, like it's too, I can't think straight right now. I feel the pressure of having to do this, but lately I'll give an example, which is for the scripting of my game, it's like it's like waiting for player to talk to me, right? And then this one is player talking to me. And then this one is me saying bye to player, right? So that's like a whole sequence of things. And then it's like, okay, well, the next part is we walk to the store together, right? And so now this is like the second part. This could be literally anything, though. This could be sort of where you're doing a bunch of physics check on like a bullet hit, and then over here is where you put on the effects, and then et cetera, et cetera. So now what's cool is you could highlight these things, and then you say, well, you can just right click in here and say add group. Okay, and then you literally just do this. And this is like a long time like requested feature. So now literally any states in here you can kind of drag around as a group. So you could say that this is like walking to store together, right? And then if you put this group right here, or actually, I still haven't found like a sort of cadence of clicks with this quite yet. I'm getting used to it too. But you could say that this is like the meeting the player, right? And so now you just have your logic kind of organized more. This is more of an organizational tool. There's no sort of like overall it doesn't change the way your state machine functions or anything. It just helps you stay clean, right? And if you ever watch my shit, or if you ever seen any of my stuff, you know how much I love a clean FSM, right? Totally go bananas for that. I like how snappy PlayMaker 2 is. Me too, Mr. Square Peg. Me too. So markdown, comments, groups, images. You could also see, I actually haven't done a lot of this, to be quite honest. You can add an image in here if you wanted, and you could put like, what kind of images do we have in our project? We'll put the Hutong symbol. Boom. Okay, represent. So you could put these in here to help you do things, and it's like the same as like any other component, or like a like a sprite or an image renderer in your canvas, right? So you could change this type of stuff. Not as in depth, but still lets you do that and change all this, whatever. Okay. What else? Groups, images, markdown, render nodes. We'll get into that later. I want to show you, I kind of want to give you more functional things today. I mean, these are functional too, but like I want to give you like maybe more foundational things. Watch variables is something I started using a little bit more recently. So like, for example, if we'll make a new FSM in here. And we'll call this one like counting or something. I don't know. And you just have this state where you would say like, whoa, sorry, I'm just kind of lagging a little bit. Int add. Oops, I'm in a collection. Int add. And you want to say like my int. That's a new int. And you want to add to it. And we're every frame. Ooh, we want a per second one though. So we're actually going to do wait for seconds. And we're not going to be running every frame, and we're just going to have it finish. And so every time this finishes, it adds 1 to that int value, right? So if you play this, it's just going to be counting, right? 1, 2, 3 every 1 second. Now in the past, what you would do is you would select your variable and make it an output, and you could still do that. You could like show it over here. Oh, what the fuck? That's actually kind of weird. I don't know why it's maybe not during runtime. Let's see, output. If you select it before, maybe that's the problem. The thing is, I don't use this anymore because I use the new way. So there it is. You can see it now, right? So that's how you might have used to have done it. But like, you could also press this button down here, this show watched variables. So as long as this little target icon is on, you can select your variable, and then right next to it, there's a little target icon. And if you select that, it just shows down here. And so you can have like a bunch of them, and they'll all show up down here. And it's nice because instead of having to kind of, this might sound like it's nitpicky, but like your eyes go all the way over here to the inspector and then all the way back to your editor. Now it's nice to have this variable that you're watching show up right here in the editor next to you. Knockoff Nix. Hi. Hi. You're gonna learn some shit right now. You're gonna learn some shit. So this monitoring variables is nice to have just as sort of like a an alternative to what the outputs, how the outputs were used. So watching variables, substates. All right, now really here's the big boy stuff. So we're gonna turn this off. We'll add a new FSM in here. Okay, so substates. I actually, to be quite honest, have not really even been using substates that much because I'm still trying to wrap my head around good practices of like where I would use them. But the example that I prepared in a tutorial that I'm making for Hutong was the idea of like player controls. So if you imagine if you made an FSM, right, and you called it player controls, okay? And right here you have like idle, right? That's just the player not moving. And then when they do move, this is them like running, right? And then you can have them just sort of like go back and forth between that. And then you would have like a jump. Let's see, a jump global transition or something. And this one sends to a state that just says jump. And we'll do a crouch. This is all like some theoretical FSM that you have to kind of bear with me and just imagine all works, right? I'm just kind of showing you like the setup that it would look like in an FSM that you might build, right? So you have your idle, let's say like your player standing still, this is them running, this is them jumping and crouching. And you can kind of imagine that if you ever come to these states, it kind of sends back to whatever the last one it was at, right? Now, imagine if you wanted to add like vehicle controls or like, you know, some other type of control for the player that wasn't the typical standing, running, jumping, and crouching, right? Crouch. You could end up with an FSM that has like a bunch of states in it, and it's like, and it kind of has, you have to figure out all the little logic and very specific condition checks between the two of these, right? That means you'd have to check a condition on each and every one of these states. There'd be a sort of redundancy that you would always be running into. There are some cleaner ways where you maybe have two FSMs, right? In the past, you might have made an FSM for like player on foot, and then this one would be like player in car, right? And then you can kind of toggle back and forth between these two. That's like one way to do it. But then you're also like splitting up your logic, and you also start having to keep more checks and balances with like where you were when you were in the last mode, right? Whereas now what you could do is you can make a new state, and we'll call this, we'll say we're going to add I wonder if I could do this all in one click. Let me just show you two things first. So if you add a state, if I right click on it and say add substates, now there's a state running inside of this state, right? And you could put states within states now. So that's kind of like a huge deal. If I expand this, now this is a whole state that can have its own logic. Look, we'll put actions on it, like, I don't know, look toward or look at smooth look at target, whatever. It's doing a thing here, right? That's this whole state right here. We'll call this looking at thing. Now inside of it has two other states. So this is running while whatever the hell inside of it is running. So the way this can manifest is the example I was trying to give right now was if I select all these, I think, can I just do this? Can I say add parent state? Yeah, and it just puts them all in a parent state. So now I can look at this parent state as on foot controls. And then I could come over here and make a state, and we'll call this like in car controls, right? And then you could add substates in here. And then so in this one, it would be like parked, and then you would have it go down to driving, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And you kind of just go back and forth. So these are two states. This is like, you know, in the past, you might have looked at it like this, right? Like on foot, in car, right? This is the same thing. This is the same thing as this, except right now we're missing the transitions. So you'll also have, if you add transition, you would say like exit vehicle, right? And so now this transition, we can have it send to this state. You see how it's pointing literally to this? The arrow's connected to this, nothing inside of it, because this is a whole thing in itself, right? And you can add a transition for here, call this one enter vehicle, right? And the transition can go here. So now you see these are sending to each other. And then I kind of want to clean it up just for the sake of, I mean, because I could be so goddamn OCD about this shit, but like, you know, it might look like this. Let's get it a little cleaner. You can see how like nice it can become. It's not just a cleanliness thing though. Like this actually changes fully like the functionality of your whole setup. Maybe it looks something like this. I think that's kind of a good design for that. And you kind of go, whoop, right? And so now that's your FSM. Your FSM has two larger states, the on-foot controls and in-car controls. And within those, so it can only be in one of these at a time. So it's either in this state or that state, but it can't be in both. And if it's in this state, it could be doing all this shit. If it's in this state, it could be doing all this shit, but it has to be in only one at a time. Right? So I think even if I play this, it'll start in this one because this is the start state. So by the way, I mean, it's freezing right now because it's just I have this as an infinite loop. But like this little eye right here with the arrow, that denotes a start state. Got a question. Is it easier to use PlayMaker 2 with multiplayer stuff like fish networking, for example, opposed to PlayMaker 1? I can't speak to that because I haven't been using any network stuff, but what I can tell you is that PlayMaker 2 has more sort of like ease of access to the rest of the Unity API and whatever third-party type of stuff. There's more features in PlayMaker 2 that make it just a little bit easier to talk to the rest of Unity, whereas before, PlayMaker was a little bit more black boxed and you had to there was a handful of actions like calling method and all that kind of stuff and get property, set property, talking to components and stuff like that, but there were just a few more things that were black box. So I would say that if I had to put a bet on it, I would imagine that PlayMaker 2 would have an easier time doing those things. And from what I understand, if you know Mr. Philip Joel, he is currently in the middle of working his Fusion, his Photon Fusion, which is another networking tool. He made PlayMaker integration, and now he's in the middle of transferring it to PlayMaker 2 integration. And I've been listening to what he has to say in the Discord, and it sounds positive. He said it sounds like he's making it even smoother of an experience than it used to already be with PlayMaker. Okay, so yeah, like you can see how let me see if I feel like if I put like a weight in here at least, just so it doesn't like die on me. Wait for seconds. I'll just like copy and paste it just so it kind of goes back and forth. So we're going to unpause this and then we're going to turn it off and turn it on. Okay, so just going back and forth. Like, you can imagine a character is idling and then running, idling and running, right? In fact, I'll put it in these two just so it doesn't freeze on me when it gets here. So right now you can see that the on-foot control state is green. That means we can only do all this shit. Whatever would be active in here is just not accessible to us right now. Whatever logic, and in this, by the way, because don't forget that this is also a state, right? Because even on this on-foot controls, you could be doing something like, I don't know, like a distance check to target. So you could be checking the distance from like the player to the car, right? So you're checking the distance between the player and the car. And then if it's less than something, right? If it's true, then you can say enter vehicle. So this would be running on this state because this is a state. I don't know if that's clear to some people, but like it for me, it was like sometimes I would forget that when using substates that this larger thing that all these other states are in is a state in itself that can also have actions running on it, which to me is just so mind-blowing. But anyways, okay, so you can imagine that if something happened like you got close enough to the car, that this transition can get fired off. So now when it fires off, we go over here to the in-car controls. And so similarly, now it's like we can only do this shit. And you see none of that logic that was going back and forth between here, all of that stopped because we're no longer in this state. We're in the in-car state. So this is really like insanely helpful for designing systems that are sort of like reliant upon like a sort of like hierarchy of conditions. You could do that back in the original PlayMaker, not a problem, but the sort of like the tools to do it are much better in PlayMaker 2. So, okay, you have that, right? That's substates, and I mean, from what I understand, you can kind of go totally ham with it. We'll check right now. How low can you go? Add substates. Add substates. Add substates. Add substates. Add substates. It's substates all the way down. Okay, that's the answer to that question. So it's like you could just nest the holy living shit out of your logic now. And I haven't really gone this far, but you could if you want to. So many substates. Yes, it's a lot of substates. I don't know if this is reasonable or not, but like I said, I'm experimenting with substates only recently. We'll see how far that goes. Okay, so that's substates. I don't know. I hope that illustrates to you sort of like, you could send transitions between each of these substates and they can send out of each other. And I think like, even if you imagine, if I say add a substate to this driving one, right? If you're driving, there could be logic in here that says like have gas, and then it says like no new event, and then it goes to this where it's like out of gas alert, and then like this all sounds very silly, but then it's like jump out of car when you're out of gas, right? And then what this could do is literally send back out to this state, right? Now you could just be forced back out of to on foot controls. So this is like a substate within a substate where it's like checking for all this other logic, and then you could be like, okay, we'll actually go back to on foot controls from here. I don't know. What I'm trying to give you is just like an overview of everything. It's hard to do without like actually like making a proper thing, but hopefully this logic makes sense. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna go over is regions. Now regions I do use. We're gonna make a new empty. We're gonna call this regions. I use regions a whole lot. I'm making a project with a friend that we're using. It's like my first big project that I'm doing with PlayMaker 2. And I'm using regions constantly because back in the day, I would just have like a bunch of FSMs over here. And essentially what regions are is kind of like having separate FSMs like running, because basically, we're used to finite state machines, meaning both it has a finite number of states, but I always used to like to think about it as like you can only be in a finite like condition, as in like one state at a time, right? Because you're used to a flow chart in a state machine, like it could be in this state, or it could be, in this state, or it could be in this state, right? But it can't be in more than one at the same time. So regions addresses that, because now regions lets you say, if I right click on this FSM and I say add region, you can see we have two regions here. So in this region, I'm going to try to give you a real world example here. The player controls, like the player controls that I'm making for my game right now, that uses regions constantly. I have one that says like move, right? And this one is like not moving. It's very similar to the substate thing I just showed you right now, but it's a little different in that it doesn't do one at a time. It can do everything at the same time. Moving. And here we'll put in a wait action again. Okay, and this is look, and this is honestly just one state in my thing, right? Because it's just looking. And then you can add another region, and this one is like jump. So like grounded, and then you say jump. Oops, jump. Right, jump, and then it goes back like that. You can add another one. This is very much like what mine looks like. It has crouch. It can have like, oh, you could even do like grounded check, right? So that can even be an additional one. This one maybe doesn't necessarily controls, but it's a part of the logic of controls. So you'll say grounded, and then not grounded. You can just have like your whatever your two different like sort of sets of values that you like to change between being grounded or not. Grounded check, look, jump. And then I also have like another like larger thing that there's kind of happening in mine that I'm using, which is that like, and this is honestly where I probably should have used substates, but or maybe not. I don't know. I kind of have a complex character controller, so right now one of the things I do is like I have like an off state for all of these. So I'll have a region that says like controls mode, and in here I could say stuff like standard controls. We'll just say that that's like the default one, right? And then add a transition. Because it's so low, it keeps popping up on my second monitor. This will be like vehicle controls. Add a transition. This one will be like, I don't know. Like just sorry, off screen again. Controls off. You know, like maybe you're in the middle of a cutscene or something, right? So you can just kind of go between all of these things now. Oops. I have to remember to not hold Alt anymore, that it automatically snaps to the grid, which is also very beautiful. Are we still live? We still good? Okay. So standard controls. I know, I mean, this is just for the folks in the back, but I'll name all these off. And then so you can see that this giant player controls FSM now has all these regions. And if I pressed play right now, all these would be running simultaneously. Let me just make sure that they all have buffers in them. Here, I'll put this so we don't get an infinite loop error. All right, so if I press play, right, I don't have any logic in here, but just you kind of bear with me and imagine. But did it already freeze? What's an infinite loop? I put a second here and a second there. Second there. Doesn't it wait for a second? Well, there we go. Okay. So yeah, you can see it doing its thing. And then you can imagine that like if I went to the vehicle mode, if it went to this state, that in this state I can have something that tells like jump to get deactivated and move to get deactivated, but look can stay on and grounded check can stay on or something like that, you know. And if I go controls off, then it'll tell controls off. Then you can imagine I have a transition here that like tells all of them to turn off, like every one of these gets disabled. And if I want to go back to normal, I could fire off standard, and then everything kind of goes back to its default states, right? So regions are so amazing. They make building things like so much easier, so much more intuitive. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's not a whole lot more to say about regions. You could send events between regions. Let's see if I go to like one of these and I say event region, right? You can literally select the region. So I could say that from the jump state, I'm telling the grounded check to do something or whatever, you know. But or more likely, it would be something like, you know, like I said in the vehicle one, or in this controls mode one, that if you're in vehicle mode, you might tell move to turn like off, right? And then so move, it says there's nothing in here that's saying move, but if we put new transition in here for off, now it's listening for it, right? So now this vehicle mode will send off, and then move will turn off because it's also listening for that. So that means move off. Right? And you can kind of, yeah, I already said all that. Hopefully all that makes sense. What else? That's regions. Well, if I think of anything after, I'll bring it up. Maybe we can open up the page. Let's see. Yeah. Regions. You could do substates. You could do regions and substates. they could leave. You could send transitions out of the regions. Waiting for regions to finish. You could like have a whole region like stop doing its thing, but if you put like a transition here and like send out, send out here. Wait, how do I thought you hold Alt. Wait. Maybe it's, wait, am I tripping? Oh, because you have to put regions out of a, right. That's interesting. I actually haven't done this yet, but if you make substates, so now this is a state and this is a state. But if I select this one and say add region, now there's regions within this state. And so now this region can quote unquote finish. Wait, am I getting this wrong? No, there it goes. Yeah, it can. There we go. So now I can leave this state could sort of have a region that finishes, so to speak, because it's leaving the substate that it's in, which I have not done yet, but there it is. You know, you could do it that way if you'd like. My brain hasn't quite tackled the use case where that would feel good and make sense yet, but certainly it exists. Regions, God, like I said, there's nothing else to talk about regions, but they're just so huge and I use them all day and I love them. Substates, update mode. Okay, yeah, so here's another one. We're gonna create an empty update mode. So if I add an FSM and I say int add, and we say int my int, and we're adding 1, and check it out. Maybe I already showed you this earlier, like you kind of already saw by accident maybe, but before you would have a little button that said every frame or not. Maybe, sometimes you're lucky if your action has run every frame. Some actions, just you didn't have a choice. They ran every frame and that's how it was. And it's still kind of like that. But now, for the most part, most actions have this little button here that lets you change their update mode full stop. So if you select it, now this lets you change the update mode where you can say, default update, fixed update, late update, on automated move, and you could say every frame. Also, what's kind of interesting is this one, integer add, it's doing every frame. I don't know which actions have this and which ones don't. I think this is probably something that'll get ironed out as the beta continues, but some of them have like per second. So you might do like float add. Maybe this one has it, every frame. Yeah, so with float add, you can see I could add every frame per second. Or I could turn per second off, so it's just adding every frame. And then all these similarly just get to tell you. And it's nice because it still kind of gives you the little plain English explanation of what your logic is doing. So run every frame, use this per second. But this is huge. I don't know. Like, if you don't come from PlayMaker, maybe this doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But like back in the day, you would literally have to like right click, edit script, and then go and write the C# of allowing it to run every frame. And now it's just sort of built right into the user interface for most actions. Some things inherently need to constantly run. Some things inherently need to constantly finish. Like the nature of whatever the design of the thing is, it's like it wouldn't make sense for it to run once or more than once or whatever. But most things have it. So that's your update mode, which is really cool. Let's look at the page and see if I'm forgetting anything. There's also some, let me see, blocking actions with like which ones? Move towards. So like move towards is a blocking action. What the holy hell? Move towards. Vector 3 move towards? Really? Or maybe transform move towards target. Let's get rid of these guys. The update method on here, yeah, you could say blocking. And if I say okay, you see how it added this little like line with an arrow pointing at it? That means that this needs to finish before everything else after it goes. So if I say an int add, right? See how it's like between that? Set string value, right? It's like, this is gonna have to run first. It's almost like a partial action sequence. If you used action sequences in the first PlayMaker, it's almost like as if you get to choose up until when the action sequence is happening for some actions, right? So this one allows blocking. With that checked, this little line stays here, and that means this has to run first, and then these can run. Or I could put this in between these, right? So that means int add will happen, then this, you know, the moving target will start happening, and then it'll have to finish before the set string value can run. Okay, blocking actions. I wish there was more. I haven't necessarily looked super deep, but I wish there was just a blocking mode for everything, or even just like an action that just blocked. There might be. I might just not be aware of it. I have to talk to Alex about that. If I search block, I don't know, stop or sequence. I think sequence actions. Yeah, so there's a whole category now called sequence. Wait for all finished, wait for key down. Oh wait. Maybe this is it. Maybe wait for all finished is it. Cuz look at the little line is like right there. Right? So I think it's like you could put that in between things. So I think this will only, I think the state can basically only advance after that. Okay. Anyways. What's next? Summaries, that's all nice. Condition editors. There's some things like, here, I'll show you, like this list find. So what is it? I wish, this is another thing that also I wish there was more of. So far I haven't run it too much, but like if you're like looking through a list of game objects, you could say like, you know, let's see, I'm gonna make a game object list called my game objects. And so if I was looking through this list, which is an array, by the way, if you come from PlayMaker 1, then this is just an array. You could set some condition here where it's like, find the first item where all or any of the following are true, the following are false. And then you press this little plus button. You can say equal to, has component, has tag, is null, is not null, contains, name contains, name does blah, 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 right? So you can say has the component, is equal to, you're like, and you can put all these like extra things. It's like, it has to have a tag, it's equal to this, and has this component. And if all that is true, then, you know, give me this bool value that says it's true, or send an event that says it's true, you know, or do the opposite. Tell if all of it is false, if all those are like wrong about it, which I think is really handy. And there's definitely other situations where I thought that this little block that sets the conditions would have been nice to have, but for now, putting it in actions that are for like lists and stuff, I think is also good. Okay, so there's that, the condition editors. I just showed you sequence. Oh, loop actions. Wait, this is actually really good. I like this a lot. So again, like I just had that list of game objects. Remember next child, or like, what was it called? Is it not called next child? Wait, what the hell is it called? Get next? List next? Maybe it's transform get next sibling? Anyways, list get next item is what I'll use instead. But so I can have it go through those game objects, right? Oh, no, wait, or is it called, sorry. For each child is what I was going to say. And then it also has it for each item. So I could say that the my game objects array, or list of game objects, right? It'll get the first item in the list, and it'll kind of iterate through it. So I'll just call this like next game object. So it starts from the top and it works its way down. But then you could put something on this. You could put like set scale. And you're saying, we're going to say the next game object gets set to 2, 2, and 2. So it's like size gets doubled. But we're also going to rotate it. We're going to say, hey, next game object, you're also going to rotate 90 degrees on Y in your self space. And so you can see that as I stack those actions, this little circular arrow got pushed down further and further, right? Like it doesn't let, it's always at the bottom. It's not like that one line before. It'll always go to the bottom, because basically this action now is saying that it's going to make this state loop. This whole start state is going to start looping now. And the reason you put this at the top is because you want it to get the next object in this list so that the rest of the state can do things to it. And then when it gets here, the state starts over again, and it's listening to this action to say, hey, when is this state done? So when it does get the last action and it runs to the final time, then the state will successfully send off as finished. What is this one? This one's emphasis because it has actions that don't finish. Well, I mean, this one should, though. I think it does. I think in the end, this will still finish, my understanding. Because I've used this for each child action, not the list, or maybe I have used the list one, I don't remember. And it was insanely helpful because it was things where, like, before, if you did things where you're iterating through lists, you used to have to use a loop event and a complete event. And now it all just happens in one place. You don't have to make any new events and everything. It just, like, I literally just say, like, here's the list of things, and here's what you call each thing that you get from it. And then I could tell the rest of the state to do things to that, to whatever that item is. So this is wonderful, right? So just to be extra clear, if you ran this state right now, it would go through each of these items one at a time, and it would grab it, and it would transform its local scale and rotate it 90 degrees, right? So it would do that to the first one, and then it gets here, and it says, okay, come back up, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. And by the time it's finished with the last one, this goes away, and then we go to the next state. So that's wonderful. Sequence actions, loop actions, swap, quickly swap. Well, I think this is just when you do the little, yeah. So like, say you're doing some shit, right? And you can press the little 3 dots, and you can say convert to, and it'll just give you some other actions. These are just actions that it thinks are comparable. So for example, this one, right? This transform rotate. So I set it so it's like it's only rotating on Y 90 degrees, but I'm not doing anything to X and Z. Alternatively, I could say convert to rotate Y and just say 90 degrees. And so that way the action is only doing this one thing, and maybe I don't accidentally type in a value in those other parameters that I wasn't even using, you know? Okay. So let's see, going back. What's new? Swap, define. Okay, here's another big one. Holy shit, there's actually so much. So much. Create a new game object, and we'll call this the item. And we're going to give it a data component. So this is a new PlayMaker component. Uh-oh, is my computer crying? Am I doing okay? Is anybody still even watching? I hope that was... It looks like people are still watching. It looks like the stream is still alive. My computer made a funny sound. Okay, so the data component is a new component that comes with PlayMaker. It's like a PlayMaker specific thing. Hi, I am. Hi, I'm glad. Yay. The data component is, you know, I've only really scratched the surface with it. And so I'm going to try to give you a real bare bones version of like how you might use it. But what it needs is a data definition. So a data component is incomplete without a data definition. And a data definition is an asset. So let's say, for example, like the most common things that you might think of is like, I don't know, like food in a game, right? So you'll say that like in here, I'll go to create PlayMaker data definition, and I'll call this food. So now on my item, I can assign the food data definition. Now nothing's happening here yet, but that's because we haven't set any settings for what a data definition is. But if I select my food asset, see it says down here, it says to add data fields, press the plus button, or you could double click, right? And so I'm going to say that there's a string, and that string is going to be called name of food. Okay, so you can see it's up here. And then we'll add in a float, and we'll say that that's like health or whatever, calories, right? So that's that. Add another variable, which is, you know, you could select any number of these things. Right, even like a game object, you can reference like a prefab from your assets or something, right? You'll say that like, do I have anything that's like a food in here? Well, let's say we eat bombs or grenades, right? So it's like we're eating a grenade. So it's that value. But we don't want to set, you could set the defaults, but I'm just going to leave it empty for now. Just want to select it there. Okay. And that's good enough for now. Name of food, the calories, and then I forgot to name the thing here. We'll call this the game object will be called like the model of food. Right. So you have the name of it, how many calories it feeds the player, and then the model, the actual little visual asset that represents the food. So this item, you can have a data component on it, and you can, I don't know, like use that as a way of like just passing on all that information to things. Now, you could just have input variables in an FSM, and that's kind of how I used to would have done things. Is that how you say it? That's how I used to do it. My man, you're choosing work over the finals, brother. You know what? I was playing a match, and it was one of the saddest matches I've ever been in. Got the highest revive count. I was just running around collecting statues, man. I look, you know, like those little kids that try really hard in Boy Scouts, and then they bring home all those little like tiny 2-inch statues on their shelf, and they're like, you know, golden boys. That was me, except instead of Boy Scout statues, it was the statues of my teammates who were just dying over and over again. Add Pibble. Okay, so we're gonna we'll do that right here. So I put the data component on it, right? Let's actually kind of start from scratch, right? Like if I delete this and I create empty, I'll call this Pibble. And I add a component, and we're gonna add a data component, and the type is food, right? The name of food is Pibble, and the amount of calories Pibble is like 5,000. It's like 2.5 days worth of calories. And then the model is, we don't have a dog model. What about that? No. What about there's not a lot of here. This smoke model looks like a chubby Pibble, right? So now this Pibble can have access to all this data. What I was trying to say before, though, about like why you don't use these as input is because now there's also like actions that help you specifically look for data components with this stuff on it, or even specific data components of a type. So what's really cool is like if I make a new game object and give it an FSM, and then we look for data component. Let's see. I'm actually surprised. Where was it? Like data. There's one I was using earlier that was like really. Oh, you know what I want is data definition. Or data record, maybe? Huh. There was one. Oh, right here. Look at game object find closest with data. I found this very helpful because basically you can kind of think of it as like, imagine you made like whatever, like a little monster creature, and it was trying to go look for food. You know, you might say that like it finds the Pibble food, and in the scene, like this is the closest one. So you could tell it like, hey, look for data components marked as food, and it'll just find the closest one around this game object. Like, you know, here's your like hungry guy, right? This is your hungry guy game object, and he's using this to find the thing that has the closest thing that has a food data definition, right? So that's awesome. I already wrote some custom actions that use this idea of looking for things with that, because in the past, what I would have done is put a component on things, like a C# mono behavior thing that just like literally just acted like kind of like a tag sometimes, but they would also occasionally have data. And now what's cool is like you could just use data components. So you could say, hey, find the closest piece of food, or make a data component for like stores, or make a data component for, I mean, even make a data component for enemies. You know, if you had like an NPC character who was like helping you fight, you know, like, you could have that NPC character like say, well, find the closest enemy with a enemy data definition. So this is like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. I hope that at least gets your sort of brain turning a little bit about how you could use data definitions. I especially wanted to show you this thing because this really kind of also helped me unlock how I should be using data definitions. That's one way. The other thing about this too is if you go to the data tables, where is it? I think it literally is just here, right? Am I just, oops, sorry, hold on. There we go. PlayMaker, tool windows, data table editor. Select an object with a data table to edit in this window. So I guess I haven't really used a lot of this yet, really. And you put food. Add. Yeah. So you can have like a bunch of things in here that uses that same definition, right? So you can kind of have this as your like database where it's just like apple feeds you 50 calories, and then burger is 500 calories. Oops, 500 calories. Pibble is 5,000 calories, and then human foot is, well, who knows? We'll just say it's 200 calories. It's lean, right? And so now you have your data table here. If I select, why does it say select an object with the data table to edit in this window? I am selecting a data. Oh, there we go. I had to repopulate. I guess this is just an editor window for you to see exactly this, but without having to, yeah. Like I said, I'm just scratching the surface of a lot of this stuff. Use name of food as key is kind of interesting because you could use all this stuff as keys to search like you would a record in the and this is huge for me too, because a lot of my old games I used an action and a bunch of custom like actions for reading CSVs that would just parse literally just a bunch of comma separated values just so I could have spreadsheets for things like my like enemy stats and all that kind of stuff. And now it's nice because it's just built into PlayMaker, which is really cool to have like the visual interface of it, but also like the whole infrastructure of it too, to be manageable as like assets and everything. Pibble, food is not Pibble. Pibble is a dog. What else? Let me go to the next thing. So data table. Let me see if I was missing anything about data definitions, if I'm missing anything that could be used here. So also, I guess to show, like, yeah, here we go. You would use this, like, get record, data component get record. This basically can give you, like, if I say, wait, no, data definition, sorry. Data component get record. That's what I'm looking for. Oh, okay. See, dude, I'm barely kind of figuring this out. There's a way to do what I'm about to show you better, I guess, but I'll just show you this way too because it's been handy still. But like, for example, if you can get the data component, so get data component or get game object get data component, right? So you would do that first. You would say, hey, like enemy I saw, like that's a game object. I'm going to look for your food object that's on you. And when I find that, I'm going to call it the enemy's food, right? That's what I found. And now I can take that enemy's food and I could look at the data record, or I mean, I guess you don't even want the data component get record. You want data component get values or even get field. So like data component get field value. So you can do either or of these because this one gives you all of them, right? See, it says name of food, calories, model of food, right? That gets you everything about it. But if you're just looking for one specific thing, you can also just use, what the hell? What am I crazy? Data component? Oh, enemy's food. Food. You could use it to specifically get like some specific field value. So like in this one, the field that I want could be the calories, and then I store it here as calories, right? So I'm only just getting one thing. You don't have to fill out, especially because if these get really big and unwieldy and you have like a bunch of values in them, the one where you say get field value because you just look for like one or two things, so you use this action like twice or something, is really handy. So I've been using this in a handful of different ways, but the two takeaways that I would say is like being able to like kind of tag things with this component is really helpful, because it's kind of like a tag and variables put into one. So yeah, I don't know, that seems to be like already kind of what sold me. There's so much more. I need to come back. I need to revisit a lot of this data stuff because it's huge. Oh, here's another thing, actually. This is actually one that I use a lot now. So in the past, here, this is actually really big. We'll create an empty called player, and then we'll create an empty called like door. And so the player will have key down, input key down, and we'll be listening for the space bar, and we'll send the event next, or we'll continue. Okay. Right, so we're waiting for spacebar, and then in here, pressed space, right? But essentially, like what we want here is like do interaction. Now, what you could do is you could send event game to game object. So you can send the event called like what I called mine is just straight up do interact. And then oops, I kind of botched that because I pressed space so fast. It needs to be called new global event, and then you have to actually make the thing now. So if I go to PlayMaker 2 assets, and I make a new, did I not put it in here? What did I call it? Official tutorial series? Oh, Steven's live PlayMaker 2 crash course. So I can make a global event called do interact. So now there's a global event called do interact that I can send to some game object that I hit with a raycast. You know, this is classic shit where you shoot a raycast a thing, send an event, right? So it's like object hit, right? So I'm sending a do interact to the object hit. And then when I'm done with that, we'll just put a little delay, wait for seconds. 0.1, and then it finishes here, right? So you can just imagine this is like your standard interaction system. Now I could take this door and then give it an FSM, and this is like door closed, and then this is open, and this is now waiting for do interact, right? And it can come down here, and then this can have another transition that is also do interact, and it can just come back up here, and they could literally just, it could be going back and forth. Door open, door, or actually I should have did it the other way, huh? Door closed and door open. So now the player, what we could do is the variables object hit. I'm gonna make this an input just so I could specify the door. But you know, in real life, you'd be like targeting it with like a raycast or like a collider or something, whatever. But now, if I go to the door, when I press play, I'm going to hit the space bar, and we should see that this receives the interaction. Oh, hold on. Okay, there we go. So it's door closed, right? I'm going to hit the space bar, and boom. Why not? Key, space bar. Oh, there we go. I hit it now. Did it not do it? Is it just happening so fast? Wait, what the fuck? Really? What about the variable? Oh, I didn't. Did I not put it in there? Am I crazy? Put the door in here. Okay, now let's monitor the door. There we go. You see that? So now when I hit the space bar, the door is opening because the door is receiving that do interact from this player, right? So I hit the space bar every time, and it just does do interaction, and the door is receiving that. Nothing new, right? We already know that from before. But here's what's cool is, in the past, if you used event data, it could be a little finicky. It's not finicky anymore. It just actually comes with it all the time. It lets you send the event data, and it's also just managed way better. So now on the player, or kind of anywhere this shows up, on events, this do interact, you see it if I hit edit global event, the event data is here. And so there's sort of a trade-off that you're making. In PlayMaker 1, you could send one type of each data with the event. You could send a float, an int, a string, a game object, blah, 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 blah. You could send one of each type. So you could send a bunch of shit in one event, but it was only one of each type. Also, it was limited to Unity's event system that was very, very limiting, because sometimes events would be being received somewhere else that they were not supposed to, not even set up to be received at, or some of the data would also sort of, you can kind of imagine it like a bunch of planes flying around above your head, little paper airplanes with messages tucked inside of them. And as they're all flying around, sometimes the messages fall out and land in another paper airplane, and they arrive at the destination they were not supposed to go to. And so you get all these like all this event data that's going to places it's not supposed to go to. And that would happen a lot because, not because of PlayMaker, but because of Unity's event system, by the way. And now the trade-off that you're getting is that event data, I can add a thing, so I can add whatever, a string, and we'll call it like the name of caller, right? Whoever send this, or like name of sender. Or, you know, if you made a new global event and you call it like do damage, right? And then if I say edit that one, your do damage global might have a float in it that says damage amount, right? And you could just send that with things all the time. So I'll take it one step at a time here with this damage one. If I select it, in the state, if I make like a new state over here, or yeah, let's say that this is where we're going to do damage, right? You would do the broadcast event, and you're saying, hey, we're going to do the do damage event. It comes with, now in the action on the interface, then an input for whatever that event data is, because that do damage will always have that specific data that comes with the event. So this damage amount, we could say it's like 5, and it could change per whoever it's coming from. We could set it. We can even use it as a variable, like random damage amount, right? And so now you can even do like a random float. Oops, not a get random float, but you know what I mean. Right, if you put this first, you can say between 10 and 50. Store that as random damage amount, and then send the event. So whoever receives that event is going to get a damage amount of either, you know, somewhere between 10 and 50. So what sucks a little bit, and this is why I was talking about the trade-off, is that now you can only put one piece of event data, and it's only one type. Whereas before, you used to be able to put at least one of each type. So what's the trade-off? The trade-off is that if I go to my events now, and I say my do damage, if I hit edit global event, I could change this. I don't want to float. Brother, I want a data definition. I want to send a whole ass data definition, and we'll call this damage data. And so now what you could do is you can go to your project and be like, I think I'm going to make myself a cheeky little data definition called, what did I call this? Like damage data. And in here, you could put in anything to your heart's content. A float, so we'll call this one the damage amount. We'll put in a string called like damage type. We'll put in another string called like shit, I don't know. Secondary damage type, whatever. You know, you could put in anything you want, or damage amount. Also, we'll do another float. We have a float for damage amount. We'll do another float called damage over time, or like damage duration, right? So how long does the damage last? And then you could put like another float in there called like damage radius, right? Maybe it wherever it's hitting is also going to be expected to calculate some radius of splash damage or something. So we have 3 floats in here now, and I could just keep going on and on and on and on, and I could put a game object in here too. This is the way I've been using this specific type of thing, is I'll say that like you want to send a game object called event sent by. So now the receivers of events all have a reliable way of saying who the event was sent by. And it doesn't even have to be specifically from the game object that sent the FSM. It could be like, you know, because in the past, maybe you have like your player, and then you have a child of it, create empty, where it's like, you know, logic, right? And you have it somewhere buried in here. And then maybe you even have like your shit, I don't know, your was it the character rig, right? And then under here, you know, let's say you have like a gun on the hand joint, and you're for some reason firing that, you know, you're firing the gun, right? If you had like a gun that was parented to the hand and you sent that event and you send the damage event, back in PlayMaker, it'd be like, okay, well, that event came from this gun. But what if you want to skip all that nonsense and be like, no, it came from the player, because that's kind of who it matters. That's who, like a more meaningful piece of data that you can use to program. I don't want a data definition. I want pixels. Well, you're gonna have to wait for PlayMaker 3 for that one. So, you know, having data definitions, being able to send like just an absolute shit ton of data in a single event is like so powerful. Where did I put that one, by the way? Here it is. So look at do damage data. Wait, did I not? Is it? Wait, which one was I doing? Do interact. Oh, damage data. Oh, I forgot to finish setting this up. So look at the damage data. That's where I put this. Boom. And then player. Boom. Yeah, so you could send that. Okay, good. And so now when you do that, you can receive it as well. So for example, if I had a state here and it was like receive damage, get damage. Sorry, I don't know how to spell receive. Add a transition, and this one is do damage, right? So this is, you can imagine a health component that has that. So you can see this little clip, this little attachment clip in here that says, hey, do damage is actually coming with data. So we know that, I mean, literally as it comes, the first state that we go into, you can start doing stuff with it. And I mean, I believe it's like do damage. Wait, where is it? If you click on it right here, so you literally click on the transition, and then you say, you want to store that as a data definition. So now it's all right here. And in the next thing, you could do the I mean, I forget exactly. How do you do this again? To be honest, I'm a little fried right now. What time is it? It's 11 p.m. But you get the idea. You get that. You get all that data that's coming in, and then you can start doing something with that. Let me see if there's anything else that's like super duper like important, that so people can just keep coming back with this. Oh, there's a new enum creator in PlayMaker. Let me see, tools, tool windows, variables, clipboard. I forget where it is, but there's you can make enums way easier now. Update manager, global events. I just showed you global events. Get property, set property, save and load. Save. I'm still kind of learning that, but saving and loading variables now can just happen automatically within PlayMaker, because you could literally just go to your variables and say what type of save mode. You could say auto, which just saves all the time. It saves when you disable the FSM, when you quit the application. It loads them when you enable the FSM and when you start the application. Or you can manually set it. So you can have states where, like, you know, you literally are like doing a save game, and that this literally just saves all the variables that are in this FSM. and you can do a load game, and that does it. And the profile is like, yeah, you know, if you want multiple save slots, you can use the name of the profile, and that's just a string. And I think, yeah, you could set the save profile, so you could be like, hey, like slot 1 or Steven, whatever, you know what I mean? So it's also pretty straightforward. I think there's a few little caveats. I'm gonna do a call with Alex hopefully pretty soon, so he can give me the rundown of how to do some things that I wasn't quite 100% sure on, and I'll, you know, try to do another stream. Haven't used object tools yet, but there's actually just so much. There's actually so much. I can't even do it in like a live. I want to do this live stream because I was like, bro, I'm making these tutorials, but also the tutorials take like way more effort and like polish, and you know, it's not like they're perfect and they're so amazing or anything, but they do just take more effort because obviously right now I'm like rambly and, you know, kind of just giving you the gist of things, but those official tutorials that are going to be on the Hutong site, they take so much time. And I did this stream tonight because I was like, dude, I have like friends that I'm doing stuff with, and I want to be able to just give them the rundown that they could just put on in the background while they're like having lunch or something. And so everybody can just have access to this right now, because yes, there's the manual, yes, there's a ton of samples, and like that's great, but I know people are really just waiting on video tutorials, and I just can't get them out fast enough. But I knew that if I just took an hour or two out of my time tonight, that this would at least get some people started. So hopefully this is helpful for you. I think I'll show you one last thing. I mean, literally just go to this page, go to this what's new page, but I will show you one last thing. PlayMaker, add-ons. This is also the other huge aspect here. This is kind of what you used to think of as the ecosystem, except it all comes offline. So it comes with a bunch of packages that are there that you can pull from that, you know, aren't fully unpacked, so it's not taking up all your hard drive space, but are still there. And so, for example, if I have this like AI one, you can get this, where's the nav mesh builder? Or maybe they're already, yeah, you know what? I think the nav mesh stuff already comes baked in the standard. Let me see, like nav. Yeah, that already comes in. You used to have to get the nav mesh stuff from the ecosystem, but there's a flight system, a bunch of like actions and components for a flight system. So you could just import that package. Now this is for like extra actions and extra components, but more importantly, if you're just learning, what's really helpful, and even literally me, you're talking like me telling you as the guy who's going to make the official tutorials, like I still have to learn all this shit. Like I didn't make the tool. And so for me, what's been helpful is I go to the games and samples sections. And so I download a bunch of these and I see how Alex has built things. I also have a benefit of being able to just ask the man outright, like, what do you know, I mean, anybody could, honestly, but, you know, it's nice having, it's nice having phone calls with Alex and be like, bro, like, I don't get this. Tell me what is happening here. And just getting it much faster, right? Because I'm sure everybody could figure it out on a long enough timeline, but having it come straight from the proverbial horse's mouth, you know, is wonderful. So come here, check out the like samples and game section. While I'm in this, I figured I may as well pick up something and just kind of screw with it. We have asteroids, animal match. There was one that I had my eye on that looked like cute that I wanted to play. This one. I'm gonna import this. This looked really appealing to me. Right? And you know, it just opens this standard import package. It has like sound effects. And Alex spent his time to make all of these mini games. He even made a survivor like that has like 3 levels on it. And it has like a proper upgrade system and everything. And it like you can advance like 3 whole levels, I think. It might even be endless now. I don't know. Maybe he changed it. But it's a full-on working game with a menu and upgrades and all this extra shit. And it's like he built these things. So when people ask like, oh, like why aren't there any nothing? Dude, just come here. Somebody literally already made it for you, and you can learn by seeing how the creator would have used the tool. So I have the shooting gallery now. Let's did I already imported it, right? Yeah. Okay. So what's it called? Shooting gallery. So you come over here to your projects and you say shooting gallery. Okay. And here's the scene. And sure, we'll save my scene. Okay, nice. I've never played this before, so we're about to see what this whole thing's about. And I guess it's gonna have sound effects. Ooh, nice. Oh, oh. Wait, am I supposed to? I'm supposed to shoot the ducks, right? Oh, click to reload. I have to click that. Oh, shit. Dude, all the finals trained me. I play the finals just so I could... Finals is my aim trainer, just so I could play the ducky shooting game in the PlayMaker sample scene. No way. He even has a cute little... Okay, so here's the thing. That's fun to play. Now I'm gonna pause it. Or I guess the game... let's play unfocused, right? So they're popping up. Let's look at the FSMs as this thing's running. So if we go to stage, okay, there's no FSMs on that. There's no. So this is all... This stage thing is like all cosmetic. Oh, so does all this exist in a canvas? Bullets. We're gonna look into it like this. Okay. So this is the bullets. Which one's this? Let's focus on it. 2D. Yeah, it's this thing. That's what we're looking at. And the FSM on here, it says show bullets loaded. And he's using the new tiled image meter component from PlayMaker 2. This is a new PlayMaker 2 thing. That's cool. I don't know how a lot of these things work yet. Full disclosure. Stream this instead of the finals. The most engaging gameplay. Yeah, I want to learn how to use this, the tiled image meter update, because it's like clearly, I mean, it sounds like it does what it says it does, right? It's a tiled image meter, so it's like there's probably only one bullet image, and then it tiles it as a meter. And this just activates click to reload. No bullets, I guess. Oh, it turns on a thing that says click to reload, right? So if I turn this on, the text shows up there as click to reload. But it automatically turned off right now because it knew it wasn't supposed to. Show bullets. Yeah, so right now this really is, and it sets the bullets to 0. This really is only kind of doing that. There's no other FSMs on here, so we'll keep going. Click to reload. When you do click this, it just tweens. I don't know. Okay, gun. Here we go. This got to be way easier to understand. Implement the gun behavior. Shoots if has bullets, checks if hits target, send event to hit target. So on initialize, it sets a crosshair to this little shape, which we can see is working. Great. And then here's where it's just ready. This is kind of like standby. The image is the raycast target, so it determines the clickable area. Okay, fine. So on pointer down, then it does shoot. And so Alex loves collapsing all of his actions, but I like my actions opened up most of the time. So when you click, it goes to the shoot state, and it asks, hey, is bullets equal 0? If so, you're empty, so go here and say no bullets, and it plays a little empty sound effect, and it does the little broadcast event that says empty bullets, which, as we know, this can receive, right? Or something like that. It says, hey, you don't have any bullets. And then it comes back to ready. But if you do have bullets when you shoot, then it plays the fire sound effect. It subtracts 1 bullet from your bullets, and then it says update UI to the rest of the stuff. And then it keeps going to the part where it says, hey, did we hit anything? You shot a bullet, but now we're doing a physics raycast from the main camera. And if we hit something, the game object hit gets stored into, and then we go to this next state that says it sends this event hit to whatever game object it hit. So, for example, if we go in here, we can select a ducky. There we go. Oh, look, they even have a little tile, or what do you call it? Like the 2D collider mesh thing. Spawn point front. I don't know what that naming convention really means, but oh, it's a spawner. It puts a spawn point up front, I guess. And there's a duck. And the duck has the FSM on it. So it's just idle. And then after that, it finishes and says hit. Um, so it receives this hit event, and if it does, it goes here and it says it gets shot, and it adds points to our score, and then it adds time to our time left, so that means you can keep playing. Um, I don't know what this is. Oh, it gets a random hit sound, so it's not always playing the same hit sound. Plays the hit sound, waits for 0.2 seconds, and then it tweens this away, so the duck like rotates like it's dead or something, and then it destroys itself. Okay, so that's cute. So that's how the ducks work. And back in gun, right, we hit the object, it tells it to go do that, and then it goes and it tells you to reload or whatever. Pause disables all this, right? So our gun is doing its thing, but if we press the pause button, then it should just go here. Score. I mean, it's literally just like updating the digits that are showing on a display whenever it receives this update UI event. Stopwatch. Again, this is doing like a meter thing based off of this float that's subtracting 1 every second. So that means that this little thing is like slowly changing. And again, it's kind of like another UI action that Alex is using. Where is it? This thing, this new UI component, filled image meter. I believe, is that not a PlayMaker 2 component? Yeah, it is. I just don't know sometimes what is a Unity component, what is a PlayMaker 2 component, but this is a PlayMaker 2 component. UI widgets is a whole ass thing. I've used target managers so far. I've used the off-screen indicator and the target indicator. The off-screen indicator is like this little arrow thing that's pointing off and it says, hey, whatever you're looking at is like over there that way. And then the on-screen target indicator is like, you could draw like a circle over whatever you're targeting, or like a bracket, or, like this thing goes over a target in the world space. But yeah, another one of the UI widgets that I have not used is this filled image meter, which looks really helpful. Target indicators, just like the finals. Yeah, for those nasty kills, I need my little red X to pop up on screen to let me know that I'm doing good. More spawn points, notes. But that's what I love about all these little samples, is like they give you an idea of how you could build these things. Like for this gun, for example, yeah, like this is a 2D duck shooting game where you're shooting little, freaking UI elements of ducks on here. But nonetheless, this gun setup is basically how I designed guns in my FSMs for like my first person games. You still are waiting for the pointer to be down. You still shoot. You still send to a different state when there's no bullets. It's just exactly the same. You check if you do the hit object with the raycast. You send the hit event like I was showing you earlier when you send the do damage event. Like this is exactly how I would design my gun as well. And then you turn it off when it's a game over, right? Like if your character's not holding the gun, you can also say like unequip or whatever, and then it sends to this state where it's like, you can't do anything anymore, right? And then if you do re-equip it, maybe it sends back up here, something like that. But these samples are great for that. And I'm gonna play another match. Here we go. I wish he would. You know what? I'm a goddamn okay. So I was just saying, right? I was thinking to myself, I hate that I have to click up here to reload. I wish you could just right click. So let's actually do that. Gun. How do you reload? Is it on? Where is it? Click to reload. What does it do? Where is the actual reload? It says empty effects and then deactivate, but that's it. So then how do you? Oh, this. Right. You do on pointer down to reload. So reload says it just sets bullets to 6. Here's what I'm gonna do. In here, we're gonna put in a mouse mouse button down. Right click, which is 1. If you hover your mouse over, it says 0 equals left, 1 equals right, and 2 equals 1 middle. So I want to make it so if you right click, it'll also, this is running every frame, then it'll shoot on pointer down, which is over here, which reloads, right? And now if I play, I should be able to right click to reload. Yep, cool. Now let's really screw this duck up. What? I'm reloading. Oh, but you know what? This logic is only true if I'm in empty. I mean, if I'm in that one, but now I want it to be in there too. Okay. Now we're going to get the high score. See, now I'm quick with it. Ah! No! I still can't right click fast enough. Damn. But my high score is way more cracked. Cool. He made other samples. You guys should totally go check them out. He made first-person samples, third-person samples. He made like a space shooter game, like that's like super involved and has like a kind of a campaign you follow where you're like doing all this extra shit. But it's so much. I'm gonna hop off now. I'm totally drained. How long was I on for? An hour and a half. But hopefully, you know, that kind of sends you on your way for using PlayMaker 2. It's mostly the same as what it is last time. A lot of your getting used to things is literally just going to be have to be about like finding the new actions because they're just named differently now. There's no bool test anymore. Look, bool test. Where is it at? What do I do? Well, if you search bool, just scroll through these until you find something that looks like what you're used to. Because guess what? It's just called bool is true now. Same thing. You look at a bool and it sends a true event or a false event. But again, it's a tiny trade-off because now at least all these naming conventions are the actual Unity naming conventions that you could look up on the Unity API and is transferable to if you ever learn any like C# stuff. But also it gives you like a way bigger range of things to do. I would say my only critique right now is, you know, we're in sort of a dry spell of high-level stuff, like actions that do a bunch of shit in one. But we're in beta, and so hopefully the community can kind of come together. Alex can like listen to people's feedback. I'm also like constantly telling Alex, hey, there should be an action that just does all of this stuff in one thing, you know. And I think that that's kind of what will be, aside from stability, of course, some crucial next steps to make PlayMaker as like sort of profoundly helpful for game development as the first one did. So yeah, but otherwise your action browser still has everything you'll need to make a game in it. I am your biggest fan. That's not true. That's not true. But everybody who you know, used PlayMaker 1 is afraid to jump into PlayMaker 2, don't sweat it. Just jump in, poke around in the samples. The samples are really fun. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on my Discord or swing by the official Discord on Hutong, which is also, there's a link in their like resources section on their website now. Go get PlayMaker 2, man. It's awesome. I'm using it to make my next project because it's just, it's already making my life so much easier. I can't stop gushing about it enough. I hope you guys learned something tonight. But I will see you all around. If SSD has no fans, I'm dead. Excuse me. Well, if you're a fan, then you can't be dead. It's like, that's a paradox. It's a paradox, and I got a pair of socks that I gotta put on when I go to bed right now. Okay, everybody, have a very good night. Goodbye.